Good morning, Biology 30s. Here we are going to be seeing our second video on embryology, and last day we had our little introduction. So I'm just bringing us up to speed and talking about HCG, the hormone that is released from the chorion. Remember that the embryo, the blastocyst, just before or just as it implants, has this inner cell mass that is the body of the embryo. And we'll be talking in a minute about how the germ layers form in it. But these outer cells around the outside here, this is the chorion. And that chorion is what is producing. My pen just stopped working there, so let me try again. Chorion. The chorion is what is producing this hormone HCG, and that is telling the corpus luteum to continue producing progesterone to maintain the endometrium, the lining of the uterus, so that implantation can occur. So, a little interesting tidbit for you is that the HCG hormone is what gives a woman a positive pregnancy test. So she is producing, well, she's not, her embryo is producing this hormone HCG. And you can see it reaches a peak maybe around 9 weeks or so, just in that first trimester. Remember, pregnancy is broken up into 3 trimesters, 0 to 3 months, up to 6 months for the second trimester, up to 9 months for that third trimester. So about week 9 or 10, we're reaching the maximum HCG. And of course, you can tell she's pregnant before that pregnancy test works a little earlier than that. But this hormone HCG that is maintaining the corpus luteum, and that is going to cause progesterone to be secreted, is a very important hormone that we needed to talk about. Okay, next, let's talk about 2 events that are happening simultaneously. These 2 events that are happening at the same time. So at the same time as the formation of the body of the embryo, which we're going to call gastrulation. That is the development of the germ layers. And it is these 3 germ layers that are going to form into all of the organs and tissues of the body of the embryo. So at the same time as gastrulation is occurring, also happening is the formation of the extra-embryonic structures or membranes, let's call them. So we have these 3 germ layers forming during gastrulation. At the same time, we're forming the membranes around the outside of the embryo, the extra-embryonic membranes. So the body of the embryo, these 3 germ layers, there's the outer ectoderm, the innermost endoderm, and then a third layer, a middle layer called the mesoderm, that is going to form in between the outer and the inner layers. These 3 layers, when they are forming, this is called gastrulation. And the embryo at this point in time is now called a gastrula. And so the outer ectoderm, the inner endoderm, and the middle layer, the mesoderm, are forming. That will form all the tissues, all the cells, all the organs of the embryo's body. At the same time as this, we have the formation of the extra-embryonic membranes. Okay, I'm going to come back to this in just a minute, ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm, and tell you what you need to know there. But in the meantime, I want to talk about the extra-embryonic membranes. So these extra-embryonic membranes outside of the body, extra-embryonic outside of the body, are forming. So the chorion, the outermost layer, we have mentioned already, it's fate, what it becomes is that it becomes the placenta, and the placenta will be the site of gas exchange where oxygen and CO2 gases, nutrients, waste are exchanged between mom and the embryo, later to be the fetus. The amnion is a transparent sac enclosing the embryo, and it is acting to cushion and protect the embryo from pathogens, from disease-causing agents. It actually acts as a shock absorber and protects the developing embryo from any shock and from cushion, trauma, pathogens, etc. The allantois, kind of little sausage-shaped extraembryonic membrane, is going to form into the umbilical cord. This is the transfer tube that is going to deliver materials from the embryo to mom and from mom to the embryo. And the fourth of the extraembryonic membranes that you have to know is called the yolk sac. Now, FYI, you are not a chicken. You are not a reptile, and so this is not a source of nutrients for you like it would be for a chicken or something like that. So what does the yolk sac do? Well, the yolk sac is going to produce red blood cells for you until your liver can take over and do that job. It is not a source of nutrients. You are not a chicken. It is not a source of nutrients. So this little diagram here shows you all of these structures, and you can go through and label all of these developing structures like this, the yolk sac. Okay, and again, not a source of nutrients. You can see here this little tube that comes out, and that is the allantois or allantois. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce that. We see the chorion, and you'll notice that the chorion has these little finger-like structures to increase surface area. And these little structures are called the chorionic villi. You will remember villi from Bio 20 in the small intestine. Villi are used to increase surface area. Well, these chorionic villi are going to form the placenta, and the placenta is where we have the exchange of nutrients, gases between mom and the fetus. And then, of course, the layer just surrounding the embryo, the amnion, and then, of course, the outermost layer, the chorion out here. Okay, so these are the different extra embryonic membranes. So you'll have to fill in this chart, the function and the fate, and check your work over for that. One last thing before I go from this video is when you are memorizing and learning the different structures that form from these three different germ layers, I'm going to draw your attention to our Biology 30 curriculum and just talk about the kind of the main structures that you need to know. So ectoderm, the outer germ layer, is going to form the nervous system and the epidermis. The mesoderm, the middle germ layer, forms your skeleton, so your bones, your muscles, and the reproductive structures of your body. Endoderm, lining of digestive and respiratory systems, your endocrine glands. So that's what you need to know and memorize for these three germ layers: the ectoderm, the outer, meso, middle, and endoderm, the innermost germ layer. So hopefully with that said, you are now able to complete this embryology notes guide, and you can look at the pretty pictures and finish this notes guide up before you write your assignment for this week. As always, questions, comments, michelle.ledeen@ghst75.ca. Talk later. Bye-bye.